everyone, welcome back to Football Frenzy. I'm Zoe Alter here with Alex Watts as always. Now, Alex, before we get into things, I don't want to do it every week, but we got to talk about COVID. So, what's your opinion on it? I don't even think we're going to make it through the season.
Oh, that would be just awful. I think it was a matter of the Titans handling it very poorly, and maybe the Patriots handling it poorly because they have their two best players have it. So
you're considering Cam one of their best players?
Yeah, he's playing very well this year.
I guess
he's better than Jarrett Stidham. He's better than Brian Hoyer.
Oh my god!
But yeah, I think it was just a matter of teams handling it poorly. They are letting their players see people, and I think that if they were to establish a bubble like the NBA did, even though it's hard, but it's like a bubble, a hotel bubble, like they can travel to different teams, or they have to live. When they travel to different teams, they stay in specific hotels that are completely sanitized, and also maybe having the players live on their facilities, which they can do.
I think the one issue with that versus other sports where they have done the bubble is that there's so many. Not only are there a crazy amount of players in the roster, which are expanded this year. Usually there's 52, and now they're expanded. But there's also a ridiculous amount of personnel and coaches and just injury people that come with football that don't come with other sports. Other sports have a couple medical trainers, but for football, you've seen it. You've seen the sidelines. It's just the amount of coaches, the amount of trainers. So I think it's really hard to keep all those people in a bubble, because if that's why it's so dangerous, even when we saw the Titans started getting it, is because once they got it, we knew it was going to spread. We wanted to mention Stephon Gilmore, then we'll move on from the corona, because it's literally all anyone talks about anymore. It's so stupid. But so you mentioned Stephon Gilmore. That was the big name in it. I guess my question to you is, do you think it was irresponsible for the Patriots to go through with that game, knowing that Cam had just tested positive? And I know no one else had tested positive at the moment, but was it irresponsible to just go through with that game and not test them a couple times or make sure or postpone it more?
Yeah, I think it was. I think that they should have done what the Titans did, which is push the game back so there'd be less exposure, because now maybe the Chiefs have a positive case. Like you saw, Stephon Gilmore was giving hugs to Mahomes.
I was going to mention that. The picture that's been circulating. There's this one picture that's been circulating. You just mentioned it. Mahomes and Gilmore's shaking his hand, is very close to him. And I know Corona's been weird with the way it spreads, because sometimes everyone in the family will get it and sometimes only one or two people will get it. But he's definitely been exposed to it. If Stephon Gilmore had it, all his teammates, all his coaches, everyone in the Patriots organization, that means has been exposed to it. And in addition to that, they also exposed the Chiefs, because Stephon Gilmore is involved in every play, especially on defense. And they all shake hands or are in close exposure to each other. So I say you definitely see the Chiefs go down with it soon, and we're going to hear about more Patriots at the moment. I'm just waiting for another Twitter alert saying someone else went down. So
yeah. I think it's just I think I remember hearing something about not having jersey swaps or handshakes after the game. People just haven't been doing it. So I think people just need to be more responsible.
They do. I 100% agree. I think we're kind of all taking it for granted. I know, me included. My parents yell at me all the time because I go out with my friends too much, and I'm because it feels like life's going back to normal, but it's not. And that's the problem, is that we're all we're back at school, everything. We're all kind of tricked into thinking that life is going back to normal, but it's not yet. We're still in a pandemic, and it's really hard for us to realize it. And it's also hard, for these NFL stars to realize it. All right, but I wanted to move on because enough Corona talk. It's so depressing. Let's start with Bill O'Brien. I know it's not so much more exciting than Corona firing, but what do you think of this move?
I'm happy. Terrible coach, terrible GM. He traded away his best player for an injury-riddled running back, and not even a first-round pick, I don't think. So I think it was a good move. They're 0-4 anyway, and defensive coordinator coaches just don't end up going well. You've always seen it. You see that with Patricia, with Bill O'Brien, and it just doesn't work.
I fully agree with that, but I don't know if the middle of the season was the right time to do it. I know it's weird to see a team that was a playoff team go to now an 0-4 start. especially when you have a quarterback like Watson there. I know that losing Hopkins was the biggest thing that could have happened for them because he's your go-to guy on first, second, third down. Whenever you need him, you throw to him. But just the fact that you can tell their team was built around him is a little scary. It's a little weird to see. I understand the firing. I really do. I just don't know if the timing was right because now you still have, I don't know how much the season is going to actually be played because of Corona, but you still have the rest of the season to go, and kind of operating off like an offensive coordinator trying to do everything, it doesn't always work out so well.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Speaking of moves, especially regarding quarterbacks, let's talk about Haskins for a minute. So I love this kid, and you know that I think Washington threw him in there way, way too fast. And he had career numbers. Obviously, he's played in like 4 games, so career numbers don't mean that much. But he had pretty much the best game of his career this past weekend, but Washington still announced that they're benching him for Kyle Allen.
I don't know why they did that. He played so well against the Ravens secondary, which is one of the best in the league. And I'm serious. They have 2 all-pro cornerbacks, and he darted them up. And I don't know why they're benching him. Maybe there's just something that they're not saying. Maybe he's hurt. Maybe
that was your theory. You were talking about that you think he's hurt.
I think he might be hurt.
They said, like, not only did they say Kyle Allen was starting, but they said Alex Smith was backing up. So does that make Haskins the 3rd string? Like that?
Yeah.
That in itself doesn't make sense. I get you want to develop your rookie, but one, it's your fault for throwing him in there too early. And then second of all, you're going to ruin his self-esteem by pulling him out. I get that he's been inconsistent, and I understand that his footwork's been weird sometimes, and he usually picks one receiver and throws to him and does not even look at anyone else. But these are little things that I get that you fix by watching people, but if you started the season and your team moves you to a 3rd string, that doesn't help you mentally at all. That's not even motivation. That's just telling you suck, especially when you had a good game. And from a guy that didn't even play as much in college as some other guys, he needs the reps. And it's not like your team's good anyway. It's a sucky season. You have a sucky team. I don't get why you just keep him in, you know?
Yeah, it's just stupid. I mean, I'm kind of happy because Alex Smith is like the first time he's active in like a year and a half. So that's good, but I'm just not a fan of the move. He's a really good quarterback, and he just needs a better team.
And also, I'm happy that Alex Smith is back and everything from the injury because that was a really scary time. But you could have activated him without taking out Haskins. You didn't have to like break him down and tear him. Like, you know, they could have said, Alex, you're going to suit up for this game, but you're just going to act as our backup and just still keep Haskins in and just not suit up Kyle Allen for a game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they want to take a different approach. Maybe he is actually hurt, Haskins. Maybe he's actually hurt. That's what I'm thinking.
That's your theory. I mean, we'll see what happens. It's not like you even have a good offense on Washington, so this isn't going to do anything. But
that's true.
One more news thing, and then we'll move on. I wanted to talk a little bit about Snacks Harrison, Damon Harrison. I know you don't know too much about him, but you've always heard me raving about him when he was on the Lions.
Yeah, you have.
So the Seahawks signed him to their practice squad, and I was just a little confused. Like, I understand why they wanted to sign him. I understand why he wanted to go. But he retired last year because of what he said were injury concerns, and he was getting to the point where he wanted to be able to move for the rest of his life and not be in a place where he had so many issues. And he had gone down with injuries a lot, and he just said football was becoming a lot. So I get that some people, like guys, will retire and want to come back and everything, but I just thought this one was weird because it wasn't like he retired because he didn't want football anymore. He did. He retired because his body couldn't take it. And so I don't really understand him coming back.
Oh, maybe he changed his mind. Eric Weddle's changing his mind. He said he's accepting contract offers from like a bunch of these teams. And I think it's just a change of like he changes his mind. And there's also just more roster spots available because people are opting out, people are getting hurt. And the Seahawks, I think they need help with their defensive line. So, you know, maybe he just – and, like, I saw a report earlier that he is expected to make the main roster once he's acclimated into their system. So
he's got to get back in that football shape, you know. He's been, like, sitting on his couch eating chips shape. But, all right, let's go to recaps. Enough news for today. So today we're only going to recap one game because I think there was pretty much one game that stood out from everything, and that was Browns-Cowboys.
I don't understand how the Browns do anything good.
It's weird that they're 3-1 now.
Oh, God, I hate that. I hate that so much.
You know you hate more. How much did you hate Jarvis Landry throwing a touchdown to Odell?
Oh, my God. I mean, fantasy points, I have Odell. He had 3 total touchdowns. But I don't like the Browns doing good things. It makes me very mad because I don't want them to overtake the Ravens in the AFC Moon. I mean, they have 2 3-1 teams and 1 3-0 team. So, and the Ravens are obviously winning for the second place spot because they beat the Browns week 1. But I just think that I don't like Baker Mayfield doing anything good because he's not a good quarterback in my opinion. And I don't like Odell Beckham because he's not good. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm just very biased.
I understand the bias because I don't like Odell either. But if there's one thing that bothers me more than the Browns doing well, it's the Cowboys doing well. And especially more than that, I like Dak. I really do as a person, but on the field, I can't stand him. And I was playing against him in fantasy. So there's my bias for you. But was not happy. Just kept throwing. He threw for 500 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Stupid. So stupid.
These were like Mahomes numbers. I was like, what is going on with you?
I mean, Dak Prescott did lead the league in passing yards last season. So I'm not surprised. But, oh my God, what a crazy game. So much passing. What's even crazier is that the Browns had over 300 yards rushing. That's just nuts. It's just nuts. You don't see a team do that. Even the Ravens, who were, the best rushing team of all time last year, didn't even do that. Maybe they rushed for 300 yards once, but that's it. You just don't see a team. I mean, they're very deep. They have Nick Chubb, who's hurt, and they have Kareem Hunt, Dearness Johnson, who we're going to talk about later, and they had Odell, who ran for 75 yards in one of his plays.
Odell had more rushing yards than Kareem Hunt himself, which was very weird. But I thought it was even more interesting that sometimes you'll see a game that's fully run dominated, and that's fine. So even then, it'd be surprising to see 300 yards, but it makes sense. But what really blew me away was the fact that Cleveland had 307 rushing yards, and Dallas didn't even hit 100. They had 85. And to me, that was the most insane thing because I know that all of Dallas's yards basically came from passing, as we mentioned, Dak with his 500 because he's insane. But it's just weird to see one team use a passing approach and one team use a full running approach and them just colliding against each other. Because when each team had the ball, it was so different.
Yeah. If it's not broke, don't fix it. If their passing game was going so well, so they just kept passing. And then the Browns rushing game was doing so well, so they just kept running the ball. I guess it was just like a fist fight to see which style of play would win. And obviously the running game won. So
also didn't help that in the running game, I know there's fumbles and everything, but Dallas turned over the ball 3 times and the Browns didn't turn over the ball.
Which I'm very surprised about.
What?
I'm very surprised about that. I would have thought somebody would have fumbled the ball.
It's because Nick Chubb got hurt. He wasn't there to fumble. But that's a whole nother one with Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt's about to be a star there. I've been looking out for him. You guys know that. But that also, I think, made the difference a little bit. Whereas only one of them was interception, 2 came from fumbles. But at the end of the day, in a game where it's so close like this and you're both putting up monster yards, they were both in the 500s by the end of it. It comes down to the smaller things. And aside from defense, it's the little things that don't happen on offense. And turnovers are a huge part of that.
No, of course.
Let's go to predictions. I can only talk about the Cowboys for so long before my head starts to spin. So, not that this is any better, but let's go to Jets-Cardinals. So this game, first of all, to start before anything else, can we just take a moment of silence for Joe Flacco? We just need to pray to Joe Flacco because he is starting. Darnold is injured. They're not going to start him. This is the biggest news all season. This is bigger than us having a season with Corona. This is the biggest thing that has happened all year. Flacco versus Kyler. What are your thoughts?
Joe Flacco, he's my guy. He's my OG Raven. So I'm happy for him. all of the Ravens fan pages are freaking out. Oh my God, Joe Flacco's starting. I'm honestly kind of happy for him because he finally gets to be in a position where he knows that he's not going to be benched because they don't have a third quarterback. So he's not going to get benched.
You think he's going to play better because of that?
Yeah. And I think he just he's a better player than Sam Darnold. I have to say, he's just a better player than Sam Darnold.
He's like
Sam Darnold is not good.
He's like 1,000.
So what if he's 35?
Sam Darnold had a really nice rush last week.
Yeah, one good play.
Joe
Flacco is very good. Tell me.
All right. Why don't we meet back after the game this week? Really, I love the guy, but let's meet back after the game this week, and we'll have a little talk about that.
Okay.
The one other thing I just want to touch on that game was MetLife. So you and I've talked about this pretty much every week, but MetLife and their injury concerns. Do you think that the Cardinals could potentially have a really bad injury because it's at MetLife because the Jets are home?
That would be bad. Like, you saw the 49ers lost basically their whole entire defense to the MetLife turf. I hope something happened to like Kyler Murray or Christian Kirk or DeAndre Hopkins or Mr. Joe Flacco. That would be bad.
That's a career ender for Joe Flacco if that happens. But I think obviously you're hoping against it, but that's definitely been something we've seen. I don't think anyone survived the MetLife turf basically. So that would definitely be something, especially Kyler, who we talked about a little before this. We were saying how he has thrown a lot of picks recently. And I was saying how I think he needs to use his legs more because when he runs, he's so dangerous. But is this the game to not use your legs? Because if you run, you're going to tear an ACL. Like, it's
my God.
It's weird, right? I don't even know.
Yeah.
There has to be some kind of like psychological psych out though, right? Like when you go into that game as a player. Moving on from the Jets because, Cowboys, Jets, you need to get it all out of the way. Let's talk Buccaneers a little bit. Coming off a very big win this week. They play the Bears next week. They're both 3-1. What do you think of this showdown?
Pretty interesting. It's two really good defenses. And I think that Tom Brady will definitely have the advantage because the Bears don't have a quarterback. Barely a quarterback. So
we've mentioned that quite a few times. But
oh yeah.
You mentioned the defenses. So I was looking up, I always look at the stats before, just to see like box scores and stuff. And we were going over the Buccaneers defense is actually ranked better than the Bears defense.
I'm very surprised about that.
That was the surprise of the day. The Buccaneers are ranked 4th and the Bears are ranked 9th. So that was a little odd, a little something to see. And then I guess the one other thing to talk about with this game is that it's a Thursday night game. I don't know. I don't believe it's going to affect anything. I know Brady's played under it 1,000 times. Do you think he's going to shine because he's in prime time?
Yeah, he always does. Every time under prime time. He hasn't been on prime time this year, I don't think. Actually, no, that's false. Week 1, I think he played the Saints prime time.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and he did not play well, so I don't know. It's up in the air.
I mean, if he continues what he did last week, I think he's going to be just fine. The Bears, I don't really understand how they're 3-1, so we'll see how that one works out. I don't really believe in the Bears. It may just be because of my roots, but I just don't. Some years I really do, but this year I just don't. All right, but let's go to fantasy. So this is probably I know it's never good when injuries happen, but when injuries happen, it's a huge opportunity for us fantasy owners. So I wanted to kick it off with, obviously everyone knows Austin Eckler got hurt. And so the two guys that if they're on your waiver wire right now, you need to snag them immediately. Joshua Kelly and or Justin Jackson. These two guys are going to be running a committee behind Eckler because Eckler is hurt. So they step up to the number one guys. We're not sure yet who's going to get more touches. As of last week, Joshua Kelly had more touches. He's the guy I picked up, but also because Justin Jackson was just not around in my league, but we'll just leave that out of the picture. Joshua Kelly had 9 rushes for 7 yards, which is pretty awful, but he was also 3 for 3 on the day in catches with 26 yards. And Justin Jackson had 6 rushes for 9 yards. So they both didn't run basically, but he was 2 for 2 with 12 yards. So I think it's going to be a toss up seeing who goes forward getting more. That's going to be a coaching decision. It's just going to be based off of who's doing better, who has better chemistry with Herbert there. So I don't know. I would say if they're around, pick him up. Alex, you got anything on that or?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate, I'd say. They're both going to share all the touches because they don't have any other running backs, I don't think. And, yeah.
And Eckler's going to be out for definitely a couple of weeks. It was scary when they saw him go down, got carted off, was just laying there. And I believe
it's bad.
They said, I'm not sure if he's going to IR, but he's definitely going to be out for a bunch of weeks.
So. No, I don't think he's on IR yet, but.
Didn't they say like at least a month or something? It's going to be.
Yeah, something like that.
It's going to be a while. So these are going to be two guys that are going to get a lot.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty difficult deciding which one because you never know. You never know who's going to pop off one week, who's going to go off the other week. So, my fantasy pick this week, my waiver watch pick is D'Ernest Johnson of the Browns. He played really well last week. He led the Browns in rushing yards, and he's a former Raven. I remember one time in a preseason game, his first touch was like a 60-something yard touchdown. So it's a good first impression, and he's going to get a lot of touches this week because you know how they play Kareem Hunt, like he's usually in the slot or he's usually in the backfield catching passes. Most of his yards come from catching passes now, even though he did have 70 yards last week. So, yeah.
So obviously, as everyone knows, it's the reason why this pick is so important is because Nick Chubb got hurt, and he's also, like Eckler, going to be out for a couple of weeks at least. I don't think his injury is as serious as Eckler's, but definitely for right now, if you're looking to get like that quick win, I definitely pick up D'Ernest Johnson. His production, we're going to have to see what happens behind Kareem Hunt, but Kareem Hunt can't do everything, so they're going to need someone else. And Johnson did get 13 carries last game, even when I know Nick Chubb went down early, but that was with Nick Chubb starting. So they're definitely going to try to work him in more there. But I would say let's move on to Red Zone because that's obviously the most fun. So for the first time, one of our Red Zone questions we couldn't answer. So we both, last week, we had debated over who we thought was going to get more rushing yards, right? The Steelers or the Titans. But the game didn't happen. So I guess we're just going to roll with two for last week. The first one being, is Lamar Jackson going to get over under 3 touchdowns? And we both said over, but then he got exactly 3. So we just gave ourselves both the point because sometimes we need a little boost, you know? Yeah. And then the other one was, does the Seahawks D get 2 or more takeaways? I said less, you said more. They got 2, so you get the point on that.
I mean, yeah, you know that Ryan Fitzpatrick likes to throw his picks, so.
I know, but then you like low-key convinced me that he was going to have some Fitz magic, and it was like a whole thing, and it was just, I don't know.
I'm just, I like to do that sometimes.
I know. All right. Now let's move on to, so we're going to go with 3 this week. Hopefully we can like go off of all of them and hopefully that none of them get canceled or moved. But first question being, do more than 2 games get canceled this week because of COVID?
Yes.
Yes?
I'm going to say the Chiefs game, the Patriots game, and the Titans game because even though there's no positive tests for the Chiefs, there's definitely a chance for somebody to get it because, we said Stephon Gilmore was like all over the whole entire Chiefs roster. So, and then obviously the Patriots because they already have 2 positive tests and they'll probably end up getting more.
Because none of them are wearing masks. So
yeah,
you're saying yes.
Yeah.
And I'll just go no just for the sake of it. I don't know if I believe it, but I'm going to go for the sake of it. Maybe the Patriots made a bad decision playing that game. Maybe they'll do it again, conceal some stuff. Bill Belichick likes to do that. But we'll see. All right, next question. This was your question that you came up with. You said, who throws their first pick of the season, Mahomes or Carr? For me, this is a no-brainer. I pick Carr any day. I like knock on wood to all the Chiefs fans. Like, sorry if I just cursed that. But I rarely if ever see Mahomes throw a pick. And especially against, like, the Raiders defense. Like, okay.
Yeah. The Raiders do have a good secondary, though. I give them that. Their defense is definitely playing better than their offense. So I say Mahomes.
Okay.
Because Mahomes, you never know. I mean, picks are like inevitable. Like, obviously, eventually, you can't have a perfect season where you don't throw any picks. So I say that this week is the first pick for Mahomes.
Throws one, it's more likely because it tipped off of someone's hands and they caught it, whereas Mahomes doesn't miss routes very often. I would say either that or sometimes you know when he like switches the ball to his other hand and throws lefty, and it like I would say those are probably the two things that'll generate a pick for him. But other than that, I don't think you're going to see a pick just from him standing in the pocket and firing. But
yeah, that's probably what's going to happen.
And then bringing this all full circle, we started talking about, Bill O'Brien in the beginning. So do you think the Texans can pick up their first win of the season in their first game without Bill O'Brien? They're playing the Jags at home.
Yes, because I think not Mahomes. Deshaun Watson has a good matchup. And I think that he will be able to run an offense that actually favors him scrambling a little bit more. So I think that he'll end up going off. This is going to be his comeback week.
Do you think the play call is going to be different because Bill O'Brien's not there? I mean, it's still the offensive coordinator running everything.
Yeah, but, like I said earlier, defensive coordinators as head coaches don't end up well. So, yeah.
True. All right. I'm going to go with no, just because I think that Gardner Minshew and DJ Shark, he was back last week. The two of them syncing up together, they're pretty much unstoppable. And I'd really like Deshaun Watson. He's my fantasy quarterback, but I don't know how much I trust his options because he has no one to throw to. So he can be great, but if the play calling sucks and the roots aren't there, he can't do anything about it.
That's true.
But the conclusion of the day is that you're crushing me in red zone.
Yep.
So that's a fun one. I have to do something to get back at you. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but we'll see.
I just have that insight. I have the big brain.
Insight and bad
big NFL brain.
Goes well together.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Wow. Thanks.
That's about it for us today. We'll see you guys next Wednesday.
See ya.